Okay, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Speak with Harris DeMarco. I have an awesome guest here today. I'm very excited to talk to him. He has an extremely diverse background in engineering, in music, and also in entrepreneurship. So welcome our guest today, Kevin Allen. Kevin, how you doing today, man?
I'm excited, man. If you can't tell from the look on my face right now, I'm really excited. Excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this since the day that we had it on the calendar, maybe about a month and a half out or something like that. Just really looking forward to this. So thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for coming down. We actually met through a good friend of ours, Chadni Patel.
Yep.
Actually, Witowski now. She's married.
Yes, yes. Good call. We got to get that right.
So,
That's true.
yeah, she reached out to me when I got back from Vegas, or just before, actually, and said that we should definitely do a podcast together.
Yep.
We connected on Instagram. I took a look at all your social medias. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, you have some awesome content that you're putting out there. And the way that you're helping people by using, YouTube and starting your own website. So, But yeah, let's just get into it right away, man. Like, where are you from initially?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for the compliment. Yeah, I really I'm excited about the direction things are going in right now for myself, and we'll definitely get into the details of that shortly. But yeah, so I was born in New York. I was born in the Bronx in New York. I lived there for a few years, and then we moved to Yonkers, New York. And I spent about 4 years, I would say, in Yonkers with the family from, I believe, second to fifth grade. And, had a great experience there from what I remember. That was many years ago, of course. But from there, we moved over to Piscataway, New Jersey. So we moved to Piscataway, and that's where I lived most of my sort of adolescence, middle school, high school, and even college. I actually went to Rutgers University, so I was like right in the backyard of, backyard from where Rutgers Stadium was, is where my parents live. And so, yeah, so that's kind of the high-level overview. Currently, I live actually in Somerset, New Jersey, and I've been there we actually moved into our house in Somerset, New Jersey, the weekend of Hurricane Sandy. Oh, so we moved out from one place that we were renting, and then the place that I bought in Somerset that weekend. So as you can imagine, it was a little intense,
Yeah, I can imagine, man. I mean, and how was it like moving from the city to Piscataway? That must have been quite a change, right?
Oh, yeah. Huge difference. I would say, I know the reason that we moved from there was just better opportunities. I have an older brother and younger sister, and I know my parents really wanted to give us a chance to be in a better school district and things like that, maybe more diverse as well. I know that was something that they talked a lot about, too. But it was definitely an adjustment. I mean, in terms of, I guess I was so young in fifth grade that it wasn't like anything groundbreaking. I have memories of the very first day of sixth grade orientation, and this is like the first school going to. So I remember being, nervous and looking around, and I remember looking around and just seeing okay, which one of these, 300 students or so, or however many students, which one of these are potential people who can become my new best friend here in sixth grade. I said, all right, maybe that person there, maybe this guy over here, something like that. But it was good. It was a good transition, and it was definitely worth it, because I think I know that myself, brother and sister, we all turned out pretty well for the most part. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, now you're a Jersey Knight forever.
That's it until we move. Whenever, who knows if that's gonna happen. There was something I saw the other day, actually. Something. What did it say? It was like a meme or something. It said what did it say? It said that reasons to live in New Jersey, and it was like a checklist, but it was only one reason, and the reason because my family lives there. I was like, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up there. Yeah. But who knows what the future holds? But I would never close the door to broadening our horizons a little bit if opportunities present themselves in other places in the country or out the country.
Absolutely, man. So what'd you do after high school? Did you go away for college, or can you talk a little bit about your college experience?
Yeah, for sure. I was just talking to one of my students about this earlier. That I was tutoring. So I went to Rutgers University, and I only applied for one school, and it was Rutgers, and I was on the waiting list for the entire senior year until maybe a couple of weeks before we graduated. And I was nervous, man. I was like, man, what am I gonna do? Obviously I would have ended up going to Middlesex or something like that, which would have been fine, 2 years there and then transferring over to Rutgers. But yeah, I went to Rutgers. I studied electrical engineering there. That wasn't a decision that was very difficult. I think I knew I wanted to do something technical for most of my time in high school. And I was pretty set on that option or that degree pretty early on. It was a great experience. I didn't live on campus, and that would probably be one thing that, looking back, I would have probably liked to have done 1 semester or 1 year on campus. Like I mentioned, I was like young, and I'm like, I live so close to Rutgers. Why would I live on campus? Why would I was like thinking about the future and stuff. But now looking back, it's like that experience would have been something that's more valuable than the money I saved. Maybe. Who knows if that's the case or not, right? The experience could have been terrible, and I could have ended up being something, someone completely different and stuff, of course, too. But yeah, Rutgers was great. I loved it there, and got the degree from there, and kind of that started the whole second half of my second part of my life now, kind of using those tools and stuff to kind of help me better myself and better others.
So what was it about engineering like that got you very interested in going into that field? Because you said like you were interested from high school.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, I had no clue. I mean, I was good at football. I wanted to play sports. Was not good enough to play NFL, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of people, I think, especially now in high school, like, was it anything in particular? Was it any like from like a guidance counselor or like maybe somebody you look up to who kind of put you in that direction, or was it something you always like knew that you were going to get into just from your skill set?
Yeah. I would say, I guess, 2 things. So I would say, when you live in a household, you have your parents. I'm looking at what my mom and dad do, and I'm looking specifically at my father and seeing that he's really into technology. His profession, he works for Port Authority of New York as a communications technician. So he's like and I think he's been working there from I think he started a year before or a year after I was born. So he's been there for a very, very long time. And I would see that and have conversations with him and stuff like that. So that was kind of, I guess, the start of everything, just kind of growing up and stuff. But I also had a chance in high school, maybe freshman or sophomore year, to be in a electronics class where we did like house wiring, and we did, how to install like outlets and light switches and all that kind of stuff. And I had a great, great time in that class. And that probably was, I would say those 2 things are probably what kind of set me up for looking at engineering as a strong option. And I also just knew that I was into problem solving. And I mean, for as long as I could remember, I think in 6th grade, when I first moved here, I probably took a placement test to figure out what math class I'm going to be in. I feel like I probably got a normal grade on that and was placed in like the regular math class. And then somehow in 7th grade, I moved up to the advanced math class. And I don't remember how, maybe it was probably the end of 6th grade testing or something, and, doing really well on that and getting placed into 7th. And then from then on, I was kind of soaring like in the mathematics department and everything like that through the rest of middle school and high school. So that was probably the start of it. And yeah, it was something that it was just very fulfilling to be able to tackle solving a technical problem on paper and figuring it out. It was even just like having a conversation with you now. I was going back to my parents' house to visit the other day, and my dad was like, Kev, don't forget, in my brother's old room is like kind of it's like a guest bedroom in there now. And he's like, don't forget, you have some of your college papers still in the closet there. I said, okay, no problem. So I went in there. It was something he told me about a while ago. I guess I kind of forgot about it, but he wanted me to kind of do something with them, take them and throw them away or keep them. So I go through and I'm like looking through these engineering, like a stack of papers, folders, and I'm looking through this stuff, and I held on to quite a few of them. I'm like, how was I able to do this at a time in my life? It was like foreign. Like, I wish I brought a paper here. I'll show you maybe next time for the next interview or something, or next podcast. But it was crazy. I'm like, man, this is stuff that, at a time I was able to conceptualize this stuff and understand it. And it was cool kind of reflecting on that, because that happened so long ago that it's easy to just kind of, be wrapped into your world here and not remember some of the stuff that was done in the past, which is something to be, I don't like using the word proud all the time, but something to be happy that you were able to accomplish, Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, from where you are now and then looking back, and always like being reflective
Mm-hmm.
and to have those past accomplishments. So I'm glad that you actually had those to look back on. That's
Yeah,
got to be
yeah.
a good feeling, man.
It is. It
So-
really was.
And then like what happened after that? Like it seems like you're a really sharp guy. Like right in high school, like you knew right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, like how was it being in state, going to Rutgers and studying engineering at Rutgers? I know there's a ton of students who study engineering at Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
But just from your experience, like how was it when you first got in?
Mm-hmm.
And from there, did you join any organizations or any like clubs or anything like at that point?
Yeah. So it was. I don't know if this is a common thing at other schools or not, or especially other schools in engineering. But I remember the first week of school. We had orientation, so we're sitting there, and there was like a conversation about look to your right, look to your left. Like engineering at Rutgers, I forget the percentage, but maybe like 30% or maybe a little higher of the people who are coming in. There's only going to be 30% of those people who graduate. So they were like, look to, saying that 1/3, one of you three are not going to be here, but it was kind of scary, kind of thinking about that. And I remember, I guess there were two things. One was the first major thing with college in general, probably, but definitely engineering, was in high school, we had our hand held in the sense of if we don't do our homework or if we miss class or anything like that, that wasn't okay. Our parents are going to find out about it. We're going to get in trouble, and then we're going to like be able to correct that. In college, one of the first things that I noticed was like that was not there at all from day one in college. As a freshman at Rutgers, it was like you're sitting there, and if you don't want to go to class, then you don't go to class. But if you don't go to class, you're not going to get a lower grade, or you're not going to get a missed absent or anything like that. You're going to miss instructional material that in turn is going to affect you doing how you perform on your tests, and that's what's going to matter the most. So it was interesting in the sense of you really needed to have discipline, and you needed to kind of learn that pretty quickly on the fly. That was something that I wasn't necessarily ready for at first. And then I remember one of my scariest type moments at Rutgers was when I was in a programming methodology class, which is like a coding class, and it was freshman year, and I'm sitting there, and the teacher's like, okay, everyone, so for today, we're going to do something kind of easy, kind of, fundamental to just kind of get a warm up for this class. We're going to go ahead and write a code for putting this list of airline passengers in alphabetical order. So I'm like, okay, I know how to manually do that, but I have no experience coding. I think she's probably joking, thinking that we can do this, right? So she's like, okay, so here's the list, and we're all in front of our computers. She's like, okay, go ahead and take it away, and I'll be walking around if you have any questions. So I'm like, okay, this is definitely not something that she's serious about. So I'm looking around, and I see that everyone else in the class, they're just going at it. They're just typing. I'm like, what is this? Is like what's going on right now? I have no idea how to do this. I have no experience with this, but yet she's expecting that the class does. And so that was like a moment where I'm just like, man, remember that conversation about look to your right and look to your left? Like, is this my moment where I'm going to have to switch to, a different major? But I was able to get through that by, using the resources that were there, using classmates, relying on them for assistance, obviously, and definitely meeting with the teacher and stuff. And I was able to, get through that class just by the skin of my teeth. But I never really forgot that moment. I shared that story with quite a few people, just in the sense of kind of understanding that it's that when things are not going well, like at that moment, I felt like the world was like, kind of like closing in, kind of like this, like anxiety and all that kind of stuff. But you just have to kind of understand, and I didn't know this at the time, but looking back, that when those like challenging things happen, I'm a huge advocate for like trying to find the positive silver lining in the experience and then using that to make yourself better. So certainly right now, sharing it with you, hopefully people that are listening to this, maybe there's going to be a college student who's in a similar boat and struggling and kind of could, lean on this story as like some motivation and encouragement even to kind of get them through. And then I'll answer one more of your the questions about the organizations. I was a part of Minority Engineering Educational Task Organization, which was abbreviated as MEET, and it was a minority engineering organization, and we met once a week, and it was really good, especially as a freshman getting in, and especially as a freshman who wasn't living on campus, to kind of just be there with other freshmen through seniors to ask questions, learn from. They brought in like people who are like alumni who used to be in Meet to talk about what the real world is like. One of the very, very common questions that we always asked, and now, full circle, now when I go to some of these events and speak and stuff, it's actually really cool, actually, not thinking about it. Just recently I had a chance to go and do a workshop at Rutgers for the Meet organization. And one of the questions is how often do you use the stuff that we learn in school in the real world? Yeah. And that's a major question. And I think it depends on what you do. Like if you're a scientist or something and you have a biology degree or a chemistry degree, then you're probably going to be using it a lot more. For me, with an electrical engineering degree, there was maybe like 10% of the stuff that I learned because I wasn't doing anything directly related to technology. Mm-hmm. Well, I shouldn't say technology. I should say I wasn't doing anything directly related to electrical engineering. I was doing just more higher level organizational planning and project management and some engineering, some operations. So there was some relying on being able to code and being able to configure routers and stuff like that early on at my time at Verizon. But yeah, so that was kind of, I guess, a summary a little bit. And then I wanted to share one more thing too about Rutgers, which was interesting. So in, I think, not 11th grade, junior year in college, there was a class that we had to take called analog electronics. And I may not be getting the story explicitly right. I believe it was second semester junior year, we had to take this class called analog electronics. And it was a class that was historically just probably the most, if not one of the most difficult classes. And like, it was very, very difficult just to pass this class. And so I remember we were taking the class and we found out that the following year, the people who were then 10th graders, sophomores becoming juniors, these students were, and moving forward, were not going to be required to take this class anymore. So like we were the last grade that wasn't required to take it. And I remember thinking like the whole class virtually was like failing the class. Maybe it was like one or two students who were like hitting a C or something. So we were just like, all right, we have to try to do something about this. So we like had like a little committee, like a few different students got together and like talked to each other about seeing if we can talk to the division, the head of the department to see if we can be exempt from it or something like that. And I was not nominated, but I was the one who actually ended up talking to Professor Sanuti at Rutgers University, who's a great guy. He was the head of the department. He was also the one of our teachers there. I don't know how I remember the name, but I definitely do. And yeah, so I ended up talking to him. And just a kind of weird part of the story is that I ended up not convincing him, because I don't know if I did a great job convincing him or not, but he ended up okaying the fact that we don't have to take this class, and it ended up being like a withdrawal on our report cards, which was incredible. But when I first went to meet him, I had a meeting scheduled, and I had some carrot sticks in my book bag, so I was like eating the carrot sticks, and then he came down to come get me. And then I had the stick still in my hand in the bag, and I walked up to him. I'm like, "Hey, how's it doing, Professor Sunni?" I'm like still eating them as I'm talking to him. And he said, first of all, before we continue this conversation, I'm paraphrasing, I'm gonna need you to put those sticks away. Like it's incredibly, not professional, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right about it. Like it's one thing about eating like something that's like quiet, but like carrot sticks are like the loudest possible food you can eat. And but yeah, he ended up, I remember that, getting the withdrawal, and that was like a huge, huge day, because we weren't sure what was going to happen with that, right? We would have had to take the class over the summer, and it would have been a nightmare.
Those students loved you, man.
That's it, man.
I would have loved it. I would like, absolutely, that's great.
That's right. Yeah, we need someone to do something about this. Otherwise, it's not going to be a good situation for us. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It sounds like you had a really fun career at, Rutgers. And what year did you graduate from Rutgers?
So I graduated from Rutgers 2009.
Okay.
2009, I went from 2005 to 2009. So I did 4 years at Rutgers, and then, interned at Rutgers while I was there. From like a lot of students, knew the importance of getting an internship, but a lot of students didn't realize that if you're in a 4-year program, then you have really 3 summers for internships, right? Like the summers in between the 4 years. And so it was like very, very important for me to get an internship that first summer. And so I ended up doing just that. I ended up getting an internship at Verizon, which is the company that I ended up working for like 12 years right out of college. And that was major, just getting my foot in the door, because so when I say 2009, we think back the year before, 2008 was the huge market crash. And I remember there were a lot of students who, that had residual effects from '08 to '09. There were a lot of students who graduated who were not able to find a job for a long time. I remember that, friends of mine and acquaintances and everything like that. So I was really fortunate to have my foot in the door. Even so, like the position I was doing, it was like I don't want to say mundane. It was just kind of repetitive. It was a repetitive job. It was a nice paying job. It was a 9 to 5. It was awesome to have the opportunity. But even at that time, after a couple of weeks, I knew that this is going to be good for me making connections and stuff. But it was an alarm testing job, which basically consisted of me sitting in front of a computer and these cell techs who drive out to these different sites that are their territory. They go to this site, and then they need to purposefully set off the alarms at their cell site. And this is, again, at Verizon. So the cell towers set up the alarms like high temp, battery discharge. I don't know how I remember all these. It was, a lot of smoke fire alarm, all these different ones. Set them off and then make sure that I could see the alarms on my screen. And I'm like, hey, John, yep, okay, I see this. Okay, you pass. Okay, you're good for 6 months, and then rinse, repeat. So it's kind of, when you think about it, it was like, all right, I need some more action here. I need something, what's going to happen there to kind of mix the days up a little bit.
Seems like you were too smart for that kind of role. Just from talking to you and getting your background from high school from now to be testing like those kind of triggers for alarms, on like a command center type application. That's interesting. But you definitely got more in the tank,
That's exactly it. That's right. Happy for the opportunity. But I knew that like when the opportunity presented itself to work there again the following summer, I knew that I wasn't going to do that again for the second summer. I had other plans for myself, and that's kind of what ended up happening too, which is good.
Let me ask you, do you think that it's difficult for students to get internships, or that there's a lack of guidance to get internships, or how to approach companies, or what to do? Because from my experience, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of information, and I feel like on top of there being a market crash, like there are other factors that prevent students, whoever the cream of the crop is, and the other. So do you think there's any kind of difference there, or maybe you need to be more tenacious of a person and kind of a go-getter and actually put yourself out there? A lot of times, like you were saying, it could be a little bit intimidating getting into college and then meeting new people, and you're in a new location or learning new things and having to fend for yourself in a sense.
Right.
So it can be very intimidating. And for some people, they might kind of just stay in their own little bubble. And you saying that you went and you were a part of a lot of different organizations, you kind of got yourself out there a little bit. So do you think that helped you at all? Or is there any advice maybe you would give somebody who's kind of maybe an introvert, in college?
To give them an opportunity. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think it's kind of similar to, I guess, life in general. If you're like you and I have, I have my show, you have your podcast that you're starting out. What is it that you or I are going to do to get noticed by the people that we want to get noticed by? We're putting content out there, and we want this content. We want people to see it and listen to it, right? So like two things with that. One of them is what is the quality of what you're delivering? And I'll explain what I think to be like the parallel between this and like a student. But like, is the content itself, something that people are going to enjoy? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is like, what are you doing as a person to stand out from the rest? So I had an opportunity while I was at a few opportunities actually while I was at Verizon to be at career fairs, to see what it's like on the other side. And I remember those days are pretty intense because you're there with the idea of like recruiting, and you get instructions from like your HR rep who's with you. Maybe some of those instructions are like, collect resumes for any students who seem like they would really, really be strong candidates. Then you want them to do this. And then for other students who you think might be okay candidates or good candidates, you want them to do this. I think there was like a separate portal, like, okay, I want you to apply on this thing. And then they get a notification, something along those lines. So I remember like, and certain students that I met there were, it might sound mean, but hey, were not unforgettable, meaning they just kind of blended in with the crowd. Right. And then there were some students who were there was something about them, right? It wasn't, they were dressed sharp. They asked the right questions. They seemed genuine. maybe they threw in a joke, or they had something else that was different about them than the other students. So like these were things that stood out to me. And people, I feel like if you're a good judge of character, which some people say they are, some people, maybe most people might claim that they are. I think that I am. I think that when I meet someone, like I can kind of get a feel for who they are, all while knowing that like that first time that I meet them I'm not going to go just by that. What if they're having a bad day? And then I'm like, oh, this person, is a terrible person, but in reality, they were just having a bad day or something like that. That can be, I kind of talked a little bit about that in one of my episodes, I think. That could be a different topic. But yeah, I think ultimately it's doing something to stand out. It's making sure that like all the preliminary stuff is where it needs to be. Meaning, if you're going to like a career fair, like are you dressed the part? Do you have enough resumes with you? Are your resumes, do they look good? Do you have your 30-second commercial prepared? Are you able to like look at someone in the eye, speak to them, and give them who you are, what you're doing, and what you want to do? Those three things. Who am I? Kevin Allen. What are you doing? I have a show called KAL Experience, and I teach middle school math. What do I want to do? I would love to teach at the college level, and I would love to I would love to do what I need to do to get my show out to people who are gonna benefit from it. That's it.
That's a great intro. Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly. And I just thought of that on the fly. Just kind of being comfortable to be able to say that goes a very, very long way if you have that down. So I would say that first piece, and the other piece is like, what are you doing to stand out in a good way? Not stand out in the way of, oh yeah, the person had the sweaty hands or something like that, but more so like this person really asked me a question that I've never heard before about Verizon, about the future of Verizon or something like that, right? These are ones that I'm like, all right, this student really took the time out, so I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and give them an opportunity to go to the next level and really, continue to shine.
Yeah, so I think that's fantastic, man. Everything you said is definitely on point. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about that is because I noticed on your YouTube channel, you talk a lot about several different skills. And one of them, your last video, I think, was on communication, right? And touched on a lot of points there. And one thing that I noticed is that usually in college, there's not a specific class that's open, where people are, communicating together about how to get an interview, how to write a resume, how to convey yourself in a professional manner, how to make eye contact, like simple things.
Right.
Like even now, like a few months ago, I had consulted with somebody and who's already graduated college, and I was talking to them about the interview process, what actually goes into it, between a phone interview, between the face-to-face, between the second interview, second round, like, and what to expect on each. A lot of people, they don't know that, and it's extremely intimidating. But I think that, I'll just look at your channel really quick here.
Yeah, sure.
Just to kind of give people an idea if you're watching on YouTube. But this is Kevin Allen's channel, and he has a lot of great content on here. Like this one video about communication is something that I strive. There were several different things in here that touched me, and I was like, wow, that's something I need to work on, or that's something I've been working on. But there's several videos here, guys, so I would highly recommend checking out his channel and give him a subscribe. Definitely follow him on Instagram, and just to learn more about him and get some more of these videos. I think after this podcast, maybe you might have some more ideas coming out of this, or other videos to even come up with.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. There was something I was going to say too prior to that with regards to drawing a blank. There was something I had on tip of my tongue prior to that conversation. But yes, definitely, I appreciate the shout out there, and I'm just really excited about the idea of getting the content out there to people that stuff that learned for a long time and been thinking about this idea for quite a while, maybe like 3 or 4 years now, like doing something to share these experiences. I have, several mentors of mine, and I remember one mentor when I left Verizon a little over a year ago, and I remember meeting with some of these mentors like on my last week there. And there's one guy that works there who I'm planning to have actually on a guest as a guest on my show on the second season. And when I start introducing guests on my show, and I remember just like being in his office and we're having a conversation, and this is, within the Basking Ridge headquarters facility, and I'm talking to him, and it was an unbelievable way that he was able to talk to me, and in terms of like explaining something to me and pulling from previous experiences and like the details that he provided and these stories and stuff, it kind of like, as I've shared with people, it like seemed to have like transported me, like in the sense of I didn't feel like I was at Verizon anymore. I felt like I was wherever he was explaining. And I just thought that was pretty powerful to be able to do that, right? To be able to talk in a way that's encouraging and something that you leave feeling like motivated and empowered. And I've had several conversations with people like that where you talk to them and they're genuine in their responses and their information that they provide to you, but it's something where afterwards you feel you get information about, you know, whatever it is that you were talking about. So you feel sort of empowered and energized to kind of put that stuff to practice. But then you also feel like you get the encouragement too from the person. You get some positive vibes from them about whatever it is that you're doing. And it's something that I love doing for people as well, right? When I have conversation with people, I know what that stuff does for me. So I strive to do that as best as I can during conversations as well. You know, case in point with you, like prior to us starting to record today, and, you know, when Chandani referred me to you and I reached out to you, and then I started looking at, you know, what you're doing and how, you know, we're both starting right around the same time, this journey of both of ours that we've maybe had the idea for a while. And then I'm like, all right, let me see what this person is all about. Let me see what his IG is looking like. Let me see what his YouTube, his videos and stuff, whatever videos he currently has. And I'm just like, I was like, I was going to meet with you regardless, even if the stuff didn't look, I was like, all right, that's cool. I'll give him a little, you know, I'll come on there and give him a little publicity. But no, I was going to meet regardless. But I mean, I see it. I'm like, man, like that's awesome stuff, especially for someone who, like you said, you learned all this yourself. You got the lights here. You got I forgot that thing right there, this little thing.
The microphone.
Yep. Yeah, the microphone over it with like, it's like to not get other sounds or something. I forget the name of that piece.
I think it's a cat filter or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Something, yeah, because it's like furry, like a cat. Yeah, so I'm just very impressed. I mean, the quality and everything. So I'm excited for you because I know what it's meant for me in these 9 weeks or 10 weeks that I've been doing it, and I know I'm committed. I see that you're committed. You got the setup. You got the skills at asking the questions, and you got the voice, like a professional voice on here and everything too. So you're off and running, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Collaborations are really powerful, and we see them all the time. So I couldn't wait to have you on, like just to talk. And this topic I am really pretty passionate about, like mentorship. It's very underrated, I feel like, and a lot of people, myself included, sometimes we can be egotistical and think, oh, we have all the answers. We can figure it out ourselves. I don't want to, reach out to somebody for help. But the fact that you're able to tutor people from, I think, is it every age?
Yeah. So right now it's K through 12 and even beyond that. I work with adult learners and stuff. I have to kind of figure out the wording, K plus or something, because I work with, adults who are relearning some algebra and things like that too. So, yep.
So just to get the timeline right, so finished college and towards the tail end, then you started working for Verizon off an internship or full time?
Yep.
Okay.
And I should say I interned from freshman year, and then senior year of college, I had a co-op actually.
Okay.
And I was finishing up my last semester. I was about to finish up start my last semester of school before graduating, and a full-time position presented itself. And I was coached by my mentors and recommended that I accept this position. But if I did, then that was probably going to mean that I wasn't going to be able to finish school and I have to go back and all that kind of stuff. Or I could have just taken the job, or vice versa, not taken the job, finish school, and then just see what's out there in May when I graduate. And what I ended up doing was I figured a way out to do both.
Yes.
Right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I said, I'm going to accept this job because it was a job that didn't open up often at all. It was like a very sought after position. It was actually the same type of job that I was currently co-oping for. And I was able to negotiate. I had to do 6 credits at that senior year as like a work study type thing, or it was open. But I was able to use this job to get credits for school and work pretty much full-time here while finishing up my capstone design project. And then the cherry on top of this story is that, first of all, okay, now I have the job, so I'm secured with that, which was like awesome. I don't have to be stressed or anything. But when I started working, they were like, Kev, why don't you do tuition reimbursement? I was like, oh, well, I actually plan on doing that to get my master's. They're like, no, that's cool. They didn't say no, that's cool. But why don't you do tuition reimbursement for this semester that you're still in school for? And I just remember I was like, no, I don't want to overdo it. And I also don't think that's even going to work. Like, why would that work? They said, well, why wouldn't it work? You're an employee now. So, man, I did that. And it was crazy, man. They approved it. And I got like a check for that whole semester of school that I just completely wasn't expecting. So it was just from that conversation. I would have never thought to do that ever. And it was a real blessing, man. I was excited about that. And that kind of set the tone. I felt like at that moment that I was like above sea level. I was like, I don't know if that's the right analogy, but I just felt like I was like I was starting at a higher place, maybe than like an average employee coming in. And I was like, nothing is gonna, bring me down. Like I have some momentum coming into this, and then I kind of let that help me continue on my Verizon career.
That's great, man. It seems like it kind of just went with your work ethic, and also to have that mentorship to kind of give you that nudge. Hey, listen, go for it.
Right.
Some people, and it's funny because I think that other kids that were in that situation at that time, call you a kid at that time,
sure.
But other students at that time, their parents would have probably told them, hey, listen, you should finish school. Don't worry about working right now. Don't get, it's going to be too much for you. Instead of saying you can handle the workload, you should go after it while you're doing school. I mean, the reimbursement was definitely the cherry on top.
Right.
But the advice to actually do something that's complicated and figure it out along the way. I think that's phenomenal advice, from your mentor. So so you were working at Verizon, you finished your degree. I mean, that's amazing. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
And I'm not a big college student kind of guy. I like to learn on my own, and I have a different way of learning. I was never supportive of how the school system worked. I went to college. I went to Middlesex County College. I went to DeVry University. But there was still, I didn't like the way, I didn't learn that way, And I find the internet a great way to either meet people who know things or just to watch videos or look at other resources to learn things, whatever it is.
Yep.
But not to get off track here. So then you started working at Verizon a little bit. Now, where did the tutoring come into play? So, and what was your position at Verizon?
So the first position that I accepted was a systems operations technician. So it was a technician position at my company that I spent 2 years working in Jersey City, configuring routers. It was basically like all the behind the scenes stuff that you would expect needs to happen in order to keep your cell phone working, essentially. So if there's like an outage or something like that, we needed to be able to fix it by going in and physically, going and changing a card, or which actually happened kind of often, especially like we had to be on call like every 5 weeks. A different person was on call. So like, watching like a boxing match or something with my brother. And then I think it was during a boxing match. I forget which one, of course, many years ago. But get called in, and there was something there was like a leak, some kind of leak on the roof, or there was something I needed to do on the roof at our building in Jersey City at like 1 a.m. or something.
My gosh.
So it was interesting looking back now, right? Because you figure out of college, maybe you're thinking a desk job or whatever the case is. But the fact is, like this position I had, it was one that I was working like 3 weeks of days and then 2 weeks of nights and then switching up, which had its own set of challenges, of course, to kind of have to change your internal clock every so often. But also it was kind of a sense of empowerment, like knowing that when you're on call, like this is you're responsible for the billing. So there was like a lot of stuff that I was able to kind of get my hands on and get some experience with, that kind of put that position, looking back on it, as one of the most impactful ones that I had in my whole time at Verizon. But that was my first one. And then from there, I spent, like I said, 12 years working there at all different capacities from operations there. I eventually moved up to like engineering. So I'll kind of give you like a high level of each of the positions. So that was the first one. And then I worked as a device tester. So I worked in a lab where we tested all the devices that were coming into the network to make sure that they were safe for customers and safe for the network. And that was also one of those kind of repetitive type of jobs where you're, in a shield room and you're connecting a phone and you're just like looking at this content and you're making sure that this passes, and then, okay, this is good, and then kind of rinse repeat with the new devices. It was some cool things with that as well, kind of simplifying a little bit, but overall it kind of got repetitive pretty quickly. And I would say at that position, so this is maybe 5 years in the company, that's when I first started having thoughts about what I'm passionate about, and about how I wasn't being able to fulfill that passion at Verizon. And that's when I started thinking about, considering changing my career. I had some serious thoughts about becoming a math teacher at this point. And this is, like I said, this is maybe like 8 or 9 years ago from now. So it didn't happen right away. I had just kind of thoughts about it a little bit. But what I ultimately decided was, like, I figured I worked really hard to get to where I was at Verizon at the time. And to just kind of throw that away and do something totally different, there's financial, things you have to consider, obviously, with that. And then there's also, like, what if I don't enjoy it? What if it's not actually what I think it's going to be? So I ultimately decided to just get some experience get some experience in the education space while doing the fulfillment of the passion stuff on the side while still working at Verizon. And that's what ultimately happened. So I'm working there at this position. I joined Big Brothers Big Sisters and have a mentee that I worked with for a few years there, and then joined some other organizations where I was able to mentor students. And then shortly after that, I would say, is when, like, the tutoring opportunity started. My sister-in-law, who's a teacher as well, she had a student she was tutoring, and the student needed some help in math, and reached out to me. And that was my very first student, who I actually, coincidentally enough, just saw a couple hours ago. I'm still working with her now. This is maybe 2 years now I've been working with her. And so it kind of happened organically, having the idea and then doing things to kind of give me the experience that was needed. And then while I'm at that position there was 2 more positions that I had in the company prior to leaving the company. One was a systems integration engineer. And that was my favorite job in the company. It was like a mix of technical and project management. And I had a lot of respect for my peers at the time. And I was able to do a lot of really cool things, present for people, executives and all that kind of stuff. And then that resulted in me getting promoted to, like, my last position in the company, which was the one at Basking Ridge that I worked at there. And I'll talk about maybe after in a little bit, I'll talk about, like, what resulted in me leaving the company. What resulted in that sort of departure and making the final sort of jump to start the teaching thing.
Let's go back to what you were saying. So you were working on you were a part of some organizations. What was it? Big Brothers Big Sisters, and that's like a tutoring organization. Oh yeah, or to, like, teach people. Yeah, Big Brothers Big Sisters is more of a mentor organization for students, for kids, boys and girls who maybe don't have boys who don't have a father figure, or in some cases girls without a mother figure. But it was mostly young boys, or even not even just don't have a mother figure. Maybe there's a the mom is having challenges connecting with her daughter or something like that. So there's someone else to come in and be able to take them out. And we did all kind of cool things, go get some pizza. We went to the mall one time, which was a lot of fun, just bringing them to the mall, walking around and just doing, he went through silly things like, just like weird stuff like kids were doing stuff. So that was cool. And I definitely enjoyed the times that we've had there together. We also did, it was actually pretty cool. We went to a Cirque du Soleil show. Oh, wow. And it was at, I think it was at Prudential Center, and we had, like, amazing seats, because, like, what happens is sometimes people donate tickets to, like, the organization, and then it's like a perk for Big Brothers to be able to take their little if they're interested. So I was excited. I was like, oh, this is awesome, I'll take him, and I was like, this is gonna be a great time for us. So we went there, and we had, like, near floor seats, and this it wasn't like a show. It was like imagine like a basketball court. It was like stuff going on all over the court. Like, and it was everyone sitting like 360 degrees around this. So it was very immersive, very enjoyable. And I just remember I was having a blast, and I looked to my left. I'm like, hey man, hey, what's going on? He's like, I'm bored. I'm like, what? I'm like, how are you bored with this? This is so exciting. I'm at the edge of my seat this whole time. Like, what part of this is bored? But then I kind of got it. I was like, actually, no, I don't think I fully ever understood. I felt like it was like the perfect thing for adults and kids, but obviously everything is not going to be engaging for everyone. So maybe this was just something where he just was like, he'd rather be doing
anything else. But I enjoyed it. So that was one of the ones I enjoyed. It wasn't a hit for him, unfortunately, but all different things like that, going different places like that, going to a park. He took me to a park one time, or I took him. He wanted to go to a park near his house. And I hadn't seen this before. They had like a zip line at the park. It was like a regular park, and he's like, yeah, they have a zip line. So he's like holding on to this. I'm like, I'm probably not going to do it, but I'll let you, go ahead if your mom, usually lets you do that type of thing. But it was cool experiences, and it was just nice. It was fulfilling. It was something that at the time I wasn't getting anything like that at Verizon. I was getting, for lack of a better term, work hard to put money in the shareholders' pockets.
Yep.
Right. Yep. That's what it is. Right. And at a time that was fine. At a college, at career fairs, I remember, going back to that, career fairs, like the big thing that we're looking for as students is like the best paying jobs, and also the ones that sound like really good, like, oh, you have an internship or you have a job at so-and-so. It's like, I got, so that's what mattered most. And over time for me personally, and everyone's different, but that stuff started mattering less and less. And now I have like extreme clarity about what's important to me and what's not. Money, I took a close to 50% pay cut to make the change to become a teacher. And when I share that with people, they're like, what? Like what? How how could you? Exactly. A lot of people ask, did you talk to your wife about? Well, first of all, we're gonna go ahead, keep our marital stuff separate. But no, definitely. I mean, my wife Jess has been ultra supportive in this whole thing, and she knows more than anyone else, maybe other than myself, because she lives with me. She's the person who I talk to the most about these things. She knew that I wasn't happy at my job, and it wasn't for the reasons that a lot of people say they're not happy. I didn't have fulfillment, but I had stability at the job. I had great paying job. I had flexibility. If I have to go to the doctor, if I have to do this and that, I can work from home. I can kind of do what I need to do. But the fulfillment was missing for me, and that was more important than everything else at that time in my life. And so far, and I certainly expect it to continue, it's been a awesome sort of ride in this transition, becoming a teacher. And I know we're going to get on that later. I'm ultra excited to let that passion and that excitement about being a teacher sort of spill over, because you hear so many stories about teaching, about how bad it is and how challenging it is and all these different things. And I know that I'm blessed to be in a position in a school, and I'll give my school a shout out right now, Princeton Charter School, where the staff is awesome, the students are awesome, the staff is awesome and supportive, and there's been some just memorable experiences there that aren't directly related to teaching, but 8th grade versus faculty basketball game, playing basketball against 8th graders in front of the entire school, or being asked to play the piano as an adult learner, being asked to play the piano in front of the entire school during the MLK assembly, which was the MLK assembly on itself was an incredible, powerful experience, looking around and seeing the students really be, into it, and the faculty putting work into it and stuff, and then being able to be the one to set the mood as the students are coming in. These are things I'll never forget. And I didn't expect or know that these were going to be added benefits and things that I'm going to really get out of this. But man, I was never able to talk the way that I'm talking to you right now. I was never able to talk about like stuff that I was doing previously at my career with this level of excitement and energy. And I think that says a lot.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
But it's not easy though, like how do you try and work yourself out of a stable job? You have a great title, a great position. Yeah. Solid income, benefits, and that's what everybody's looking for, especially college kids. And I know from experience too, like once you get into that, that corporate world, there is a lot of opportunity. There are a lot of perks, and it's a great feeling, and there are some projects that you work on. You're like, wow, I worked on that, and you can see it. You might see commercials on it or something like that. You're like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Like I had a little piece of that. Right. But at the same time, I know exactly what you're talking about when you said fulfillment. Like when you wake up every day and you go there and you're just like going through the motions, you got this 9 o'clock call. Yep. You got another meeting face to face with this person. Yep. You got to, do this ant analysis or whatever it is. So and then you go home, let's say 5, 6 o'clock at night. how do you either find the motivation, or where do you even begin to work on something outside of your full-time job? And on top of that, you were married at the time, it seems like. So to have a relationship, and now you're talking about, listen, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Right.
And
right,
that's
right.
another thing. Like, there's a lot of lazy people out there who are not willing to stay up till midnight, 1 a.m. for their passion. But there's a lot of people out there who don't know what their passion is. So where do you,
Yeah.
But I'll just start with, like, let's say that you're in a position and you felt that way. You knew it wasn't fulfilling. How do you begin the process of working yourself out?
Yeah.
Once you identify what it is you're passionate about. And I feel like the working at Verizon was something that you had to get out of your system. You had to go through that experience to actually be more self-aware of what it is that you are interested in.
Right.
So if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, you hit that on the head. The two of the topics that you just talked about, questions you asked, like one of them about sort of goal setting and how to kind of make that initial step, that question. And then the other one about how to balance everything else. Only 24 hours in a day. So how do you make sure that the right time is being spent on the right things? These are two topics that I'm very excited to talk about, and two topics that were on two separate episodes of my show as well. One of them being that, okay, you have an idea of something that you want to do, but it's just so difficult to start. It's like you said, where do you start? On one hand, you have, like you were talking about, like the internet. You have every imaginable resource to be able to do what you need to do, which is like incredible because, decades ago and stuff that wasn't around. But then the other hand, you have too much stuff. There's too much. So it's like maybe sort of a good and bad thing, right? So one of the things that I talked about is the importance of just starting, and how do you just start? Well, one of the things that worked for me, and I don't think there's like a one, only one type of way that this can actually happen, but one of the things that worked for me was to dedicate time to brainstorming. So what that meant for me was, like, on a Sunday, I said, okay, so I'm going to plan my week out and say that Tuesdays from 6 to 7 p.m., I don't remember the exact day, but to some specific day for this hour, I'm going to be without my phone, without my laptop, with no technology, just a paper and pen, just for this initial, time. And I'm just going to, like, gather my thoughts, think about what it is that I want, and just kind of jot some stuff down. So, like, starting with that is multiple things kind of happen for me. It's like therapeutic because now, especially if you have a lot of different ideas in your head, now you can kind of get them down, and it's like you have this here, you have this, and then there's this like follow-up steps to that, of course, to kind of, cross things out. Okay, this is not realistic, or this is not good right now, and then kind of planning from there. But I think the first thing, like anyone out there listening that has like an idea of something that they want to do, but is just not sure how to start, if you spend whatever time, I said an hour earlier, but like if you do 30 minutes, if you do 15 minutes, you may have a really busy life, you may have a family, you have other things going on, but dedicate some time and to the best of your ability, don't let anything get in the way of that. So if you spend time on Sunday saying that, okay, Wednesday at 7:00 is the time that I know right now is free, put that on your calendar so that when Tuesday rolls around, someone's like, hey, Harris, we haven't gotten together in a while. Let's hang out. Let's go get a drink. How's Wednesday at 7:30 or 7 or whatever? I can't do it that time. I have something already planned. You don't have to say what it is. You have something planned, but you can, reschedule obviously for another time that week. So I think doing that and being intentional about it, like, I believe that nothing worth having is going to come to us easily. Like, we definitely do have to have a plan. We definitely do have to work at it. But I'm a living testament at this. Like, once you do the hard work and you start things out, meaning the hard work for us, maybe for the things that we're doing, is like maybe researching the stuff and then maybe saving up to purchase the stuff and deciding on, do I want to invest in like the best of the best right now, or do I want to get something that's entry level just for now, that's good enough? Like, making those types of decisions. And then once you start putting the content out, if that's what you're after, like us two, once you start putting the content out, now it's fun. Now it's like every day I'm like, oh, that's a really good topic for a show. Let me put that on my, Google Keeps list note, right? Oh, this is a good person to hit up to see if he or she is interested in coming on. Let me add them to my list of potential people. Let me reach out to them, a little bit later. I have all these different thoughts. Oh, season 2, I want to have a intro. I want to make, I do music and stuff too. So I want to make a song that I think encapsulates all of the different things that are going on in my life. That's like a nice upbeat song, but I'm thinking of all these different things now. And that's the really exciting part. Now it's like, okay, I've started, I have the YouTube channel. I have, people who reached out, and that's another thing. Once you start, if what you're planning to do is something that is for people, like what you and I are doing, and I'm sure you've gotten this right. I mean, you've got it from me, but I'm sure you've gotten it from others too. Like once you hear from people that are complimenting your work, or just have something positive to say, or feedback about your show. I've watched it. I think it was great. You might want to consider this. It's so exciting knowing that you're putting something out that people are enjoying, finding insightful, learning from. It's an infectious feeling, and even every time for me personally, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't overemphasize, or that I don't, maybe overemphasize is the word. Like every time one new subscriber happens on my YouTube channel, it's a mini celebration for me, honestly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's where I am right now. Right now, I'm like, oh, that's one more person who clicked this, hopefully because they saw something else that I put out and they want to see more. They want that, recommendation, right, on their YouTube channel. And I'm kind of between two different things. On one hand, that's very exciting for me, but I don't want that to be something that is like, it's like taking over the main thing that I'm doing, which is not to grow a huge amount of people, but it's to make the content as quality as possible and as beneficial as possible, and get it out to as many people who will enjoy it, who are enjoying it. So I went off a little bit on a tangent there, but I just kind of popped up.
No, that's
good.
Now. But I think that's a great point to mention. You're not just looking to get the audience. You're really looking to get your audience. Who are the people that are going to be impacted by what you're delivering, and then making sure that you have quality content, focusing on that, being the driving force, as opposed to, I need more followers, I need more subs, I need more this, I need more likes, or I need someone's approval. Like sometimes feedback is good, but at the end of the day, it's your vision, right? So
very well said. Yeah,
that's good, man.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to say one more thing too. That remember, I hesitated earlier. I forgot a topic. So you were talking about how you thought it would be beneficial for college students to have a class to talk about those things. So I feel the same exact way. One of the things that I had an opportunity to do was for 2 years now in the spring. So I plan to do another one this spring coming up at Rutgers, was to teach a personal and professional development workshop at Rutgers University, and having a chance to stand in front of the students and kind of talk about a lot of the topics that we're talking about now at a bit of a higher level, but also some of the things that kind of in turn ended up being topics on my show, about how to conduct yourself, the importance of first impressions, all these different types of things. It was something that while I was doing it, it's a no credit course, so it's voluntary. I wasn't getting paid for it. I'm volunteering my time. The students are volunteering their time to come, just to learn and stuff. And I felt that colleges should have that as a freshman requirement. They should have something like that if they don't already. Maybe some colleges do, but I probably need to continue that conversation with some of the people that I know at Rutgers, but they should have something in place there, because it would be hugely beneficial to have, like in my case, to have a engineering alumni who wants to come there and speak to the masses, speak to all the freshmen coming in, maybe their first or second semester, and just having a class on these topics, I think would be hugely beneficial. So this is a reminder for me to continue with that.
You should, man. You should do it. I think that all colleges should have something like that, and even like do some like mock interview style things, or even like, where you have somebody, and now you can make the students understand what the companies are actually looking for. They can play the roles. Like, you and me sitting at the table. You could be the, let's say, the senior vice president of X department, and I'm a brand new college student looking for an internship.
Right.
What are some things that a senior VP would look for in a college student on a first internship? What kind of personality are they? A go-getter? What kind of technical skills are they going to need? How do they approach them? Do they have good communication skills? Just because you went to college and just because you have some other degree in engineering doesn't mean you're going to get an engineering job. Right. Right off the bat. Right. Maybe maybe you have horrible people skills. Maybe you can't talk to anybody. You kind of just want to be in your little bubble. You want to check your systems, do all your thing, or maybe you're a programmer, you just want to code all day. I don't worry about my team, whatever. Right. You can't be that kind of person in a large corporation. You're constantly talking to people. So those skills are extremely powerful. And like I said, and I hope you take it back. And it could be something really big actually. And zero credit course, but the value I think is there. And I think it's something that every college student would benefit from and probably remember, if they were asked, hey, what's a single class or a single thing that you experienced? Well, there was this one, small assembly that we had that talked about people skills, and we did some role playing, and, that actually helped me in my first interview, shaking a hand, looking somebody in the eye for the first time. Like these skills, I feel like, especially today with the high touch technology and everything. And, oh, check my LinkedIn profile, Right. Yeah. Check my Facebook profile, But how does the person sound when you sit down and talk to them?
Face to face.
You can't replace that. So it's really important right now.
Nah, you hit that on the head. That's very, very, very important, man. Very important, and something that I will definitely add to the list. Add to the list as like a nice reminder that I want to continue with that.
Definitely, man. Yeah. Well, that's good. So, all right. I think that's a great start so far. So we're talking about balance, about balancing your schedule. You made some really good points about actually taking some dedicated time for yourself. Saying no to friends or family is okay. Sitting down, kind of getting your thoughts out on paper, organizing them in some kind of way, and then, working it. And it takes some time. So how much time did it take you, weeks, months, whatever, from the time that you knew that you wanted to start tutoring for math and the time that you actually left your position?
Yeah. So I would say that was probably about a year, because I left the position. We're in 2020 now, so I left the position at the end of 2018. Last day was 2018, like the end of December. And I would say, just about a year prior to that is when actually a little over a year, because the summer prior to that in 2017 is probably when I first started tutoring, just like as a preliminary thing, just one or two students. And then I ended up meeting a person at the public library who is a teacher who was there pretty much every time that I was tutoring. She was also there. And, we would sit close to each other working with our students. And I guess she kind of heard me, the way I kind of conducted myself and stuff during our sessions. So she ended up starting to suggest clients to me, because she had sort of a cutoff point that once students got to a certain level in math, she wasn't really able to help them out anymore. So I think that cutoff was like fifth or sixth grade or something. And so she would kind of funnel them to me little by little. And that's been like pretty incredible, like having a teacher right in Piscataway who, me and her are really, really close now. And it's a win-win-win. I win, she wins, because her clients and her relationships with the parents are awesome, even because she's referring someone to be able to continue helping them. And then the students, I think, are really getting just great instructional material. And the thing is that there's been times where I, during the winter when it snows, and I'm like, man, it's snowing today. That means I might not get a chance to work with so-and-so because it's snow day in school, and maybe it's not safe to drive or whatever. And at the time, I remember thinking I wasn't sad about not getting paid. I was sad because I was looking forward to working with them. That is something for me that has been I look forward to the sessions. I had 2 students today, 2 yesterday, and it's rewarding for me seeing them come in and either tell me that they did really well in a test, or not understanding a concept, and then me not giving them it depends on the student, it depends on the topic, but allowing them to come to the answer and discover, that's like the word that I think is kind of major with the students, allowing them to discover how to get to that answer is incredibly rewarding and exciting for me. And, I see some, continued big things for the business in terms of the academics as well as the mentorship, allowing students to have someone to talk to as that relationship kind of organically happens, and they're comfortable doing so, to take 5 minutes during an hour lesson to talk about what's going on in school if they want to, because they're, not comfortable talking to their parent about it or whatever. And of course, making sure that the parents are, understanding and on board with that level of what I offer as well. And it's just a really good thing. But I would say it was probably about a year starting, and it was a slow process. It started out with not necessarily having the idea for a business. It started with just one-on-one, here and there type of a thing. And then, thinking of my business name, which is called KMATS, Kevin's Mentor and Tutor Services, to being connected with an awesome guy who is like a freelance graphic design. So I don't know if I call him I guess you call him a freelance. Yeah. He has his own business. He's a graphic designer, and he helped me design. He's worked for he's worked on graphic designing for big companies and stuff as well. But he designed for me like my logo and stuff. And, learning how to build a website, having the opportunity to step away from Verizon for, I didn't talk about it at all yet, but there was a voluntary severance package on the table. And when I came into work and my coworker was like, hey, Kev, we're all going to be getting an email today. I'm like, okay, I get emails every day. What's this one about? He's like, we're going to be, there was a new CEO, and there's some changes happening, and they're looking to cut costs like tremendously. So we're going to have a option to leave the company and get a severance payout. And mind you, this conversation happens a year after I was involuntarily already laid off from the company. And I ended up making some connections at this networking event, and it ended up happening where a person at that event was looking for someone just like me to join his team. So he ended up creating a position at the end of the year, and I ended up being able to take that position, which was almost never happens in the company, right? If you get laid off, you have until the end of the year to find another position in the company, but there's hiring freezes, and it's pretty much impossible. Everyone is trying to get those same positions. And so this person, I'm eternally grateful. I still have a relationship with him. I reach out every so often. He opened this position up for me, and then I stayed there for a year, and that's when the conversation happened about this voluntary one. Mm-hmm. So I just remember feeling at this time, this is like a year and some changing with the tutoring stuff. At the time, did I have my business name and stuff? I think I did. I did have my business name at the time, but I didn't have it like legit, like the LLC and all that stuff, no website yet. And I just remember like, this is it for me. I'm putting my name in the hat. It was like a huge weight off my shoulders, because what it was going to allow for me was to take some time off of like no work, and also see what it's like to not have to wake up. Like for 9 months, from January 2019 to September 2019, when I started working as a teacher, when I accepted a position, I had an experience as an adult to be able to work on my business, gather my thoughts, go for walks in the morning, go to the gym when I wanted to, schedule a meeting with different colleges to talk to them about these personal professional development workshops. You see what I'm getting at now, right?
That's my dream, man. It is my dream. You're just like, this is music to my ears right now.
Yeah, and that's why we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue, obviously, our relationship and stuff, and make sure that we're kind of in lockstep about what we're both going towards, because that's also exactly getting a taste of that, and not at all being stressed or worried about like, oh man, and in August when the severance runs out, what am I going to do? There was no concerns on my end. I knew what I wanted to do, which was, okay, I wanted to teach. I wanted to get some experience teaching. So like one of the things I did was picked up the phone. Rutgers Prep School is like right around the corner from where I live. Mm-hmm. I said, let me just call them. I want to substitute teach there. Let me just see what's up. It's a private school. Maybe it's less of a, or I wasn't sure at the time, but it ended up that there was a little bit less of like a legal requirement than like a public school to be a substitute teacher there. So I called them up and had a conversation, and it went really well. They called me in like that week, and I ended up subbing there. And that was like my first, like, okay, I could see myself doing this for sure for some period of time until it's time for me to move on. And that's kind of what I think was very strong to put on the resume too. And that's what ultimately I think led into the person calling me for this position at Princeton Charter School. And
see, that's like a huge thing right there. So we were just talking about, corporate America being, great. It has its perks and stuff, but it also has its downside. Stability is not always there. Companies, they're going to look different directions, or things might happen in the market that are directly going to impact your life at that company.
Yeah.
And to be able to have a way out, or to have a side hustle, or some kind of outside source of income, or second income, whatever it is, I feel like that's extremely powerful. And also, like you were saying, just the initiative that you took to pick up that phone call and to actually call a school and see if they were looking for subs. Everybody needs to do that. You got to get comfortable with those phone skills. You actually have to be a go-getter. Like I remember there was one time where and not to toot my own horn, but where I would wear a suit and I would walk down certain places or walk to certain banks and actually give them my resume, like face to face. Hey, my name's Harris DeMarco. Here's my resume. Yeah. I was just wondering if you guys had any open positions at this time, Or to be that kind of person. And I know a lot of people today, students today, would not do that, would not pick up the phone. I know you were working professionally, but to all the students out there that might be listening, pick up the phone, call these companies, ask for internships, let them know who you are, your name. That's a huge thing.
Major, man.
So in that 1 year time span, you got connected with a graphic designer, worked on a website. Let's just share your website right here real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So Kevin's Mentor and Tutoring Services. So this is a really nice logo, actually.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's really
I loved
cool,
it.
Man. I like the color scheme too, black and yellow.
Black and yellow.
That's the Chiefs colors, right? Piscataway.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. I
love
never
it, man.
Pieced that together. Yeah, that's what we were going for. Yeah, there you go.
That's cool, man. KMATS, Kevin's Mentoring and Tutor Services. I love it, man. This is such a nice website. You got a few pictures here.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I had to, I had to learn how to do this, right? Learn about WordPress versus Wix versus Squarespace and see what made the most sense, right? And it took a little while, right, to make the decision and kind of piece it together, but it was rewarding once it came together. And there's some things that need to be that I will be updating on there. Like for example, one thing when we talk about math tutoring, okay, that's something that I love to do. Math tutoring is awesome, but I had an experience recently to work on piano lessons, work with a student. And when I say so the piano is something as an adult learner, is something that I started getting into. And as soon as I get home from here, probably putting about 2 hours in on the keys, definitely, because I was working on a new song last night. I was working on the Prelude by Bach, the one that goes... So that one, wow. I don't know if I did a great job at all. There's like a little bass, little deep in it, but it's it's a beautiful song that I could just kind of lose myself in. So I was working on it last night. Working. So I've been posting videos about playing the piano and stuff. Right, when I was a kid, I was able to play by ear pretty okay, like hear a melody, and I can just kind of like replicate it after a few seconds or minutes. Not so much with like all the chords and stuff, but definitely the melody. I can hear something and be able to play that. Took 1 year lessons in sixth grade when we kind of first moved here to Piscataway, and then asked my dad if I could, take the summer off, and join back in the fall, but never did. That stuck with me for a long time. And so when I was approaching my 30th birthday, a few years ago, is when I said, I want to get back into it. So I did just that, and it's amazing. I'm loving it. So much fun, getting the opportunities to just practice on my own, to now being able to be comfortable playing for people. Like I remember we were at, my wife, her and her coworker were celebrating a birthday together. So we all went to like somewhere, either Hoboken or Jersey City, and my friend came with me too. And it was a piano in the main area. I was like, hey, Aunt, I'm gonna play a little bit on that later today, like when we come back down from the area that we were at. And he's like, all right, cool. And mind you, I had never played for people. At that point, I can play pretty well by myself, but I had never played for people. So I went up there and started playing, and probably did okay, but did like nowhere near as good as if I was like just playing for myself with no one around me. So I had like those like little bit of nerves, like playing for people and stuff. But when I was asked to play at the school that, like I mentioned, and I just like, my heart dropped for a second when I saw the email. Hey, Kevin, would you be interested in playing, for the school? I'm like, wow. I need to think of an excuse not to do this. Like, I really didn't want to do it. It was after a long weekend. It was the first email I read. I'm like, come on, man. But I agreed to do it. And one of the things that I remembered about that was playing it, being like preparing a little bit, but playing it and it going so well. And it was such a quick thing because it was only when the students were walking in. I remember the head of the school started talking, started the actual assembly. And I was just like, man, I want to keep going. I was like, I didn't want to stop at that moment. I'm like, all right, this is the itch that I needed. Now I need to, and I'm going to share with you actually really quick. One of the things during I don't know exactly when, I'm thinking in between seasons 1 and 2 of my show, I have like an idea that, should I say it or should I not? Because I don't want anyone taking this idea. All right, let me think about that. I'll come back to it. But it has to do with the piano, and it has to do with like being able, it has to do with like I'll just say it's not a big deal. I'm gonna like find different places that have pianos that are in the public. Like one of them is at like the hospital in New Brunswick that has a beautiful grand piano there. It's like a sign, do not touch unless if you know how to play. There's a store in Shore Hills Mall I went to the other day called, I forgot the name of it. I think it's called Indigo, but it's like a Barnes and Noble's type store. They have like a piano right in the middle that people can play. So I plan to find all these places. There's one in Port Authority bus terminal, piano that was donated there. You can just sit down and play it during like rush hour. I'm finding all these. I'm going there. I'm recording, putting maybe a little sign up. I'm doing it. Like it's happening right during the spring and summer. It's happening. I'm excited.
That is excellent, man. Yeah. I love that idea. You should definitely tackle that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, sir.
I'm like, I can actually see it right now. I can see it. The bus terminal, the places, Indigo, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
You should do that. That's going to be really nice. Recording and everything. And
put like a little sign up, like maybe so people could like see KAL experience. I'll have more stuff on my channel, and that'll probably bring organically people. Oh, I saw you, at so and so, and that's something that's very exciting.
So many people got themselves out that way. I can't. I forget their names. But just from like either street performances. There's several people that have. Man, I wish I can remember his name. But there's several people who have done that, and they've actually become big brand names now just from street performing. And it's really just doing your passion, doing something you actually like. And if you connect that way with music, I mean, that's really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. That's exciting. Very exciting to me, for sure.
So you're doing both. Like now you're talking about working Verizon, tutoring students, playing the piano.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. But all, to your point earlier, all just great stuff. It's stuff that I'm passionate about, I'm excited about. And now the challenge is, so the things you mentioned, so full-time teaching, right? This is Sunday, we're recording this right now. There's no sense of, and this is exciting too. I don't know how you feel right now, but I know when I was at Verizon, there was never a time where Sunday I was ever like okay with the fact that I had to go into work the next day. Now, I'm excited. Not to the point where like if I didn't have to go, I'm gonna be sad. It's not quite there yet. But I mean, there's no sense of like, oh man, I have to go into work.
It's a peaceful feeling. See, that's something that I wish more people would understand too. Like when they look at entrepreneurs or anybody who wants to take the leap on something that actually fulfills them, sometimes even family members could bog you down about the decisions that you make and stuff. It can be very, disheartening. So, but it's not the fact that you're afraid to work or you don't want to work or you're lazy. It's that you're more connected to something that you're more passionate about, you're more fulfilled with. It speaks to your heart and soul, and you can do it. You can wake up every day. And why can't life be that way? Why can't you wake up on a Monday morning, get your sip of coffee, maybe go for your morning walk, go to the gym, 10 o'clock, whatever, come back 11 o'clock, have a little snack, and then get to the office, get to your office, get to your studio, start making some cold calls, start putting some things together, start recording something, anything, if it's for you, it's different. There's a different tenacity when you do something that's yours than when you do it for a boss or a job just to get a paycheck. The money should not be the motivation. The passion should be the motivation. And I think if we flip this, if we turned everything inside out right now of how the world is, people would be so much more happy because they would actually do stuff that they would like. And as a byproduct, they would get paid for it as much as they would get paid, if not more.
Powerful.
You know what I mean?
Powerful, man.
So
it's such an important thing. The rhetorical question, I think was rhetorical, pretty sure. Why can't it be that way? Well, you and I both know that it can be that way. We're both kind of working towards that. We both have the ideas down. There's more ideas to come, but we have the foundation down. We've started, and like I don't know if you had the opportunity, but I think the 9 months that I had of like physically doing just that, like doing those things that you just mentioned, and not having to worry about the finances because I had the severance package, that was something that was so valuable because I didn't quite understand. And again, you had a really good point about it not being because we're lazy. No, it's quite the opposite. It's because we're driven. And the stress that I had at my job was not because it was too stressful. It was because I had these thoughts and these things that I wanted to do, and I wasn't able to do them yet or I didn't have as much time, I should say, to do them because of the fact that I was working, 40 plus hours a week. And I think that flipping it, yes, the passion, having a passion and being able to push towards that, man, I mean, you really hit that on the head. So I'm all about that. And I hope that people listening to this, who are thinking about these things a little bit, it seems like there's a bit of a shift for sure now in terms of like decades ago. When I shared with my dad and my grandfather that I was leaving Verizon voluntarily, like my grandfather, like what do you know what I'm saying? Like what do you
mean?
Exactly.
Are you out of your mind?
Exactly. It did not compute. And then a little bit lower of a reaction from my dad because he's, next generation. But then we talk to people our age and stuff. This company was putting this package out there to, in my opinion, for lack of a better term, tempt people who are close to retirement to retire early, to get the numbers down and all that kind of stuff. What ended up happening, two of my closest friends who also worked at Verizon, who were both in my wedding, really good friends, they also, and same age, they put their names in the hat too. And there were a lot of other people our age, our generation, that are like, I would be kind of foolish to not take the severance package and either do what I wanted to do, which is something totally different, or go work over here, competitor, or another tech company, or whatever the case is. And I think they got a little bit blindsided by how many people, younger people than they expected, actually put their names in. Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
That's really interesting, actually, man. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely a very interesting experience. I hope. Well, I don't know if I hope or don't hope that it happens to me. Mm-hmm. I'm good where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Hustling on the side, working the evenings and the weekends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really interesting. Your story is very, very moving, man.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad it's resonating.
Let me ask you, like where do you see yourself now? Because you have your company right now, KMATS.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, MATS. Mm-hmm. So, what age group have you mostly been tutoring right now, and what's your vision for KMATS like going forward?
Yeah, so most of my students are definitely a solid middle school student, 6th through 8th grade. And then secondary to that will be high school, because I have several high school students too. So in addition to the one-on-one tutoring, a couple things that are kind of in the works right now. One of them I currently do, I've been doing for maybe a year and a half to 2 years now, is every Wednesday at my church at 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, which is the Well Church in Piscataway, open for anyone to come to, who's grades 3 through 12. I have that open for a free hour of math tutoring.
Okay.
It's a math workshop that I do. It's voluntary based, so some people may throw some money, a couple bucks here and there. But it's something for me to kind of give back and allow for, maybe there's some students parents who want me to work with their students, but they maybe can't afford, right, the one-on-one tutoring. So I really needed to have something in place to be able to hit that demographic too. And my church was gracious enough to, and it's a win-win, I think, for both parties here for sure, but to open up their downstairs area, and 6 to 7, I have students that come through. And that keeps me busy. Every Wednesday I'm there and working with students. It's one of me, and then there's like, a few high school students here, maybe a few middle school, maybe even a couple younger.
Interesting.
So it's very, at first, I'm like, all right, how am I going to do this? But I have some good ideas and things that I've been kind of trying out. One time, one of the really fun things we actually did, which I definitely want to do again, is I had maybe 3 teams. We did a team game, and I broke the teams up like on grade level and skill level. Mm-hmm. And I had questions prepared that are ones that all of them would be able to answer. So not like some algebra 2 question that like a 4th or 5th grader wouldn't be able to answer, but ones that that everyone was able to participate in. And yeah, just seeing the students light up and get excited for that was something. We only did that once, but I definitely want to do some more of those, because I think after a long day of school, students want, first of all, I'm aware of the fact that, like, I appreciate the fact that students come here, even though maybe in some cases, maybe the parents, kind of say, oh, you're coming, this is free tutoring, you're definitely going to be here. That might be the case in some cases. But like, I'm aware that after a long day of school, like this hour, it needs to be not school again.
Yeah.
That's what it needs to be. It needs to be something that, it's fun and it's learning and it's, they're enjoying themselves. So they want to come back. And that's kind of the way I kind of branded that. So that's not going anywhere. But I guess 2 other things that I'm thinking about, 2 to 3 other things I'm thinking about the business. One of them for sure is the piano. That's something that as a 2-year in sort of solid intermediate player right now, I was at first like, man, can I offer piano lessons if I'm only an intermediate? Do I need to have been playing for 30 years in order to be legitimate? And talking to my piano instructor at Octopus Music School, Jennifer is her name. I was talking to her after one of our lessons, and I'm like, I said, I really want to get into lessons eventually, giving lessons. I said, what do you think? Where do you think I am with this? You think I need a lot more, a little bit more? So she said something that resonated with me. She says that, you can be an amazing piano player who's been playing for 30, 40 years, but be a terrible teacher. Mm-hmm. You can be a good piano player who's been playing for a couple of years and be an amazing teacher. So she basically was saying to me that as long as you know the basics, and more than that, you can teach the level under you, right? I'm not going to teach someone necessarily right now like the same level that I'm at, because I'm still learning that, right? But underneath that, the basics, you can teach that. And the fact that I already teaches in my DNA, this is what I do on a daily basis as a teacher and with the tutoring, being able to explain things is something that comes natural to me. And so that really helped me have some encouragement that I can actually do this. And so definitely, I'm looking like I'm thinking about doing something like an initiative to open up. I was just thinking of it earlier today, and I can say it, like a 1 month. I'll announce it here. This is exclusive. Drop the bomb.
Special
Exclusive
moment. Let's go.
Exactly. So I'm going to do 1 month of free piano lessons for anyone, where maximum 30-minute session per week, right? So anyone that wants to come, we schedule it out. And what that's going to allow for me is to give me some experience, as well as sort of a celebratory thing, because I just passed my 1 year mark officially starting the business. And that, I think, would be awesome. It's just a matter of when I'm going to start it. Mm-hmm. March already happened, maybe April, or maybe I might just start it mid-March to mid-April. I'm not exactly sure the details yet, but that's definitely going to happen. There's something about, like, say, for example, if you were like, all right, offline, you're like, hey, Kev, I actually really wanted to learn the piano. It's hard to put into words, but I need to, because we're on a podcast. I need to put it into words. I can't just assume that you know what I'm about to say. But especially an adult learner, but definitely anyone who like has the idea that they want to learn how to play the piano, I'm instantly like just so excited, because I know what that's meant for me. And I know I was there 2 years ago. I want to play the piano, and now where I'm at right now, and just like what it's doing for me, and having that level of discipline and all these different things that it's kind of doing. And because I genuinely care about people, I want more people to experience that. I don't want people to like have the idea and then not do anything with it, because that's the worst. So I'm like such an encourager with that. And I mean, what better way to put my money where my mouth is than to offer something like that, offer my time for a month and be like, all right, this is going to be something that might kickstart, a lot of people. And hopefully that could result in maybe them continuing to work with me, maybe them continuing to go on YouTube and learn it on YouTube and things like that, which is perfectly fine to start with. There's, two different trains of thought with that, in terms of like your technique and all that kind of stuff. You kind of do want someone watching you and kind of seeing and stuff. But so that's one thing, definitely music, piano lessons, beginner to intermediate piano lessons. And then, so I also want to have another workshop that I kick off that is not donation based, but it's going to be probably $20 per person and opened up for 1 to 5 people at a time, maybe like on Saturday mornings for 1 hour. Registration required in advance so that I can have the students, the 1 to 5 students that I'm working with are going to be on a similar topics, right? So I can go to the library, I can work with these, say if only 3 students registered, I'm getting $60, 20. They're getting something very, very close to the one-on-one tutoring that I would be doing because we're all on the same topic.
Right.
And that's something that I've been thinking of, planning out, and just figuring out how to kind of make that happen. And when to kick it off and stuff. But that's definitely a big part. And then I guess the last piece would be like my YouTube channel. How do I integrate math and academics a little bit into the YouTube channel? Does it make sense to keep it on this same KAL experience channel, or does it make more sense to have a completely separate channel? Trying to figure all those pieces out a little bit.
Yeah, that's always fun trying to figure that out.
It is. It's exciting.
But I don't know. Maybe it might be a good idea to have another channel like specifically for math.
Right.
Right. That might be. Mm-hmm. Have you thought of like Udemy either? Like any other like maybe online courses that you could teach? There's a few different.
I have. When you mentioned Udemy, I've definitely heard of that. There's one other one that I'm drawing a blank on right now, but there's another place that you could have your own like classes, right? That I guess I don't know if they're live or not. I haven't looked into it.
Yeah, most of them are instructor level lectures and such on various different topics, but they can have it any type of algebra, geometry, and they have that out there. And people from all over the world, they come in, and usually there's like an instructor who has their email there or some form of contact where if there's any questions, and then they get ranked based on their like response rate, how fast they respond and stuff.
I like that.
And one thing I really like about Udemy is that it's usually the cost is very low, but it gets a lot of views. Like it puts you out there to more people than you would just in your general community.
Okay.
And you might end up teaching somebody in another country, you know, and you never even know.
Right.
But I've used Udemy, just for like coding skills and things like that, JavaScript, and just learning things on my own, for work or for just technical experience. So I think it's a great site to take a look at.
Yeah, see how you can kind of factor that in a little bit.
Yep, and also the YouTube side, I haven't looked at or looked up any math things. I hate math actually. It's funny sitting across from a guy who's
that's funny.
into math, and I was never into math except for geometry. Actually, I like geometry a lot.
That's the one I don't like as much.
I like playing pool. I like angles. I like shapes, visualization.
So cool.
But the algebra always like threw me off. Trigonometry.
But, we can do a lesson right now. An hour. We'll do an hour lesson. I'll get you up to speed real quick.
Yeah, that'd be great, man.
All right.
But dude, this has been a fantastic podcast so far.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
I just wanted to ask you, like, we've gone over some of your challenge. Have we gone over some of your challenges? Like, what was your biggest challenge actually to start this, other than like getting over the family hurdle? But any other challenges other than, obviously putting your thoughts down on paper for me was a big one. And then organizing them in a way that, where I could potentially launch, the podcast or launch something like, it took you about a year and a half time frame.
Yeah.
Right?
About a year and a half.
So what were some like challenges that you faced, or maybe you might foresee other people facing who are working a full-time job now, trying to work on a passion on the side?
Yeah, well, I guess one of the things that I'm currently facing is now that I'm so into this whole thing and I'm like loving every second of it, and just like I want to work because the work doesn't feel like work. It's more like rewarding, but it is work because it's helping me reach my goal. Like that feeling is incredible. But because of the only 24 hours in a day thing, I've had to kind of look in the mirror and say, all right, what other parts of my life are being impacted by the fact that I'm like, full steam ahead for this whole thing? Because working full time and doing this other stuff kind of full time, the piano, with the tutoring, all this other stuff, it leaves a lot less time for other things. What are these other things? And other things that are important: family time, relationship with your friends, relationship with your wife, other things that you need to take care of. Maybe even going to the gym, things like that, because you just kind of focus, right? So like I had to kind of take a step back and kind of look at maybe there's one day where I'm not doing any of this. I'm not recording. I'm trying to not think about. I'm not, on Instagram, networking with. That's a major thing I'm doing now. Yeah. I'll hop on Instagram now, and I'm using it to network with people.
Yes.
It's a whole world there, right? I'm like, all right, I know this guy's channel is very successful, and this specific guy, I'll give him a shout out because he's awesome. His Henny the Business. So you guys know the song, the Drake song, in Lil Wayne, Every Girl in the World. Mm-hmm. I wish I could. So this guy produced. I don't want to say that actually, but it's just called Every Girl. It's just Every Girl. You don't know what about Every Girl. It's just Every Girl. But yeah, so this guy produced that song. It was like it was his biggest song he ever produced. And the name of his group was The Business. He has a YouTube channel. He's not in his group anymore with him and his partner, but he still produces and everything like that. He has a channel that I would watch because it's on technology. It's on sort of personal development, even though it's not like explicit topics. He might just include like a little tidbit in the technology videos here and there. It's on, using his iPad to make beats. He's like a minimalist kind of guy now where he doesn't have all of his equipment and everything. And the way he put it together, it's incredible. And I'm like, every time he puts that episode, I'm excited to watch it. So that was part of how I was like, all right, I want people to feel like I feel about his videos, like my videos. So what do I need to do that, right? Mm-hmm. I was like watching, kind of studying him a little bit, actually, studying the way he does things, as well as other people on YouTube, as I'm sure maybe you could relate to with the podcast, like you were talking about earlier.
100%.
Right, and looking at that and replicating, but putting your own spin on it. And so yeah, I think I lost my train of thought. You might have to help me on this one.
So you were reaching out or you were kind of looking at him as an example for you.
Right. And then even prior to that, we were talking about something. Let me see. I went so far down that tangent, and I just kind of got to grab it back. Let's if when it comes back, I'll talk about that. But in terms of the whole balancing, the balancing your life and kind of looking at the piece and seeing that
time management, networking.
Yes. Oh, and I remember what I was going to say now. So I was talking about him because going on his Instagram, for example, and seeing him post things and then seeing the people that are fans. This is like kind of like 101. It's like, it makes sense. The people that are fans of what he's doing, even though what I'm doing is not the same thing as him. I'm not doing videos on how to produce and things on iPad yet. Maybe I will eventually. But my videos are a little different topics, but they're put together in a similar way, and they're inspired by him by every sense of the word. These are people that I fully expect, 80% of them, 70% of them would find my content relevant and intriguing, and they'd be interested in it. Do I have access to these people? And do I know who these people are? Clearly I do. Go look in his latest post, see what's going on, right, check out their page.
Yep.
And I'm just like, and it seems kind of weird, right? It's like, we hear about Instagram, and it can be like a, time sink because you're on it looking at other people's stuff. But I'm looking at it like, I'm not just like looking at other people's stuff. I'm on there like, let me literally earlier today is when I had this sort of epiphany kind of thing. I'm like, all right, let me try to, contact a few people per day. I didn't put an exact number on that yet, but even just today, it resulted in people, I'm excited to see some more of your content and more subscribers and things like that. So it's like, it's not gonna, it takes work. You got to reach out. Yeah. You got to do some things. It's not just gonna happen organically. For the most part, but once you put the work in, now it's like you have more people who are interested, and now those people are more likely to tell, if the content is really good, to maybe share it with someone else. Like, I think you might find this interesting, this podcast. I think you might find this conversation interesting. And that's when it does happen organically. Because now you look at a Reddit post of someone like, I'm looking for, I'm always on Reddit. I'm looking for someone who's, a YouTube channel that's inspiring, or I'm looking for a podcast about, something similar to Joe Rogan, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, have you thought about Speak, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Have you thought about Speak? You might want to check this out. And then people are going to gonna funnel in from just like you know years later. They're gonna like research it and see that that's happened to me for sure. Like looking not for my show, but like me finding Henny the Business actually was from a Reddit post about iPad music production on Reddit. So it's doesn't answer your question, because your question was how do you foresee like different challenges, but the challenges for me right now are definitely finding that balance and just knowing that you do need to detach from, you know, every now and again, and being intentional about that and knowing that this stuff is not going anywhere. You don't have to be spending 110%.
I think that's an extremely good point. And, you know, because I'm married too. Yeah. And I need to spend time with my wife. I need to spend time with family and stuff like that. So time management is a big one. And I found myself sometimes being so immersed in this, you know, over the past 3 months before I launched, like from October to like January, February timeframe. Yeah. I could be in here every night till like 2 a.m. Yeah. Looking at videos, taking down notes, figuring out, you know, workflows, buying equipment, setting up stuff. Does this work the way I want? Sending it back, you know, over and over again. So time management's a big one, but like you said, it's not going anywhere, you know? And once I realized that, it's funny that you said that, because that exact like phrase that you used, it's not going anywhere. I felt that a couple months back, you know, and I was like, it's all good, dude. You got this. You don't have to be like, it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It doesn't have to happen overnight. You know, it's going to be a work ethic, you know, it takes time. Every great thing, it takes time to build, right?
That's exactly right. And let me jump on just a quick statement with that too. It's like we have our goals, you and I, and everyone else listening hopefully has goals that they want to get to. But once we get to that goal, if we're not like actively enjoying this time, like you and I, we should be enjoying this time right now. This time of like starting out, having a small, you know, fan base, people that listen here and there, that kind of thing. And just enjoying the
journey, right? Like this is the journey. This is the process.
That's
you know,
it,
this
man.
is we're experiencing what, you know, I hope to be great one day. But like what several greats, like they experience the actual grit, the work ethic, but you know, juggling the time, juggling the issues, you know, figuring out what to say to your boss or what to say to get out of something or whatever it is, or something. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. So absolutely.
All right, so you got a few challenges pretty much based on time management, like everybody.
Yeah, time management, and making sure that that you go into it knowing that it will take work. You just said 2 a.m. You're staying up. Like, if it was something that was, let's see, you probably, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're staying up to 2 a.m., you're probably not sitting there like devastated about the fact that you have to. You're probably like, at least some level of excited about doing this stuff because you know that this is going to result in whatever it's going to help you do. Yes. And that's definitely how I felt too. So, but I do know that like it takes work. Like you can't necessarily be okay with the idea of going home and just like, if you're into just, you know, chilling and just relaxing every day after work, then, you know, you're going to have to do something about that, because the things that you want you're going to need to put some effort into in order to get those things.
And it's great. Like I have a very, you know, a great relationship, you know, at home. And I feel like that's very important too. Yeah. But a part of the reason why it's a great relationship is because my wife Ron she understands exactly what I'm trying to do. Yeah. You know, and she's supportive. She's like, okay, like I see what you're trying to do and you're still holding it down every other way. So do it, you know, figure it out. Okay, you don't want to watch TV with me, you know, at night until, you know, midnight or whatever. Yeah. Stay upstairs, do your thing, figure it out. And then listen, like on the weekend we go out on a date or something like that. Like we figure it out. Like those things, you can always figure those things out. You don't have to be like, oh, well, I don't have time for my kid, you know, how am I going to do this? Or I don't have time with my husband. It's prioritization, right?
That's right.
It's time management. Like these are basic skills. And it's funny because we're adults and we're still trying to figure these things out.
Oh, without question. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that too. Having that support, you know, having the support at home, that's awesome that you brought that up, because that's a major part too. It's like whether it's the support at home or whoever you talk to, your friends or your family, like you want to be encouraged, and sometimes we're not. Sometimes, you know, we get discouraged because everyone's not going to think the same way. Everyone doesn't know exactly what's going on in our heads and what our goals are and stuff like that. But certainly the person closest to you, right? That's you know, I can totally relate to that. It's a very important thing, having that having that support, because if it's not coming from anyone else, that's someone who you want to be able to, rely on, your significant other. So I'm glad that, we can both say that we're in that space where we're not stressing about that amongst the other things, that we're kind of going through.
Yeah, definitely. And even if, like, let's say you don't have a significant other who is as supportive, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's somebody. And even if it's nobody, go online, go to a Discord, go to a forum, YouTube. There's plenty of people who are in your kind of realm, per se, that will actually support you or your dream or whatever it is.
Right.
And I feel like we're very privileged compared to like our grandparents' generation or even our parents' generation, to have this ability to connect with people whenever we want, literally on our palm. I can connect with anybody. I didn't know you from anybody, and I probably wouldn't have connected with you unless my friend Chani told me about you.
Right.
And just that she told me about you wasn't enough for me. I wanted to see you. I wanted to find out what you were about. Went on your Instagram, went on your YouTube. I'm like, this guy gets it. Right. I got to have him on. Right. He knows, he speaks the same language. Let's go.
Let's do this. Yeah, man. Yeah.
So it's been a blast, like, having you on, man. And I think we're about ready to wrap this up.
Sounds good.
Before we do that, though, I just wanted to ask you, like, did you have any like idols growing up, or specific people you might have looked up to? Anybody you want to mention, whether it's somebody famous or somebody close to you, family-wise or anything? Because I feel like you have a very interesting story, and you are a little bit different than most. You have some kind of differences from what I can tell just from this brief interaction that we've had here the past couple hours. And learning things about yourself at a young age, figuring out that you enjoy math, figuring out that you enjoy teaching people, figuring out that you're also into the arts, you're into music, and you just connect with those type of things. So, like, who was your idols growing up?
That's a great question. I was thinking about it when you asked. I was like, did I have any idols? I would say that I definitely looked up to my father, for sure. Growing up, I think that's a staple. A lot of people, hopefully, would say, right?
Yeah.
They look up to their father. I think that later on in life, as I started becoming more aware about what I wanted to become, when mentors started being introduced into my life, these are the people who I think really, really shaped me. Meaning, some of the conversations we had, or the talk that we had earlier, talking a little bit about how someone can be talking to you and them being able to transport you and make you feel encouraged and make you feel uplifted and things like that. The people in my life that have been able to do that for me are people who I look up to, because I want to be able to do that for others. So there's a few people out there for sure. One mentor at Verizon who's like he's the chief security officer at Verizon, and he's formerly the highest ranking African-American person in the FBI. He retired from that before going into the chief security officer role. So he's someone that I definitely am in contact with, a lot, just talking about different things and stuff post Verizon life. And then my pastor is definitely someone as well. So we go to a church in Piscataway called the Well Church. We actually recently changed our name from Travelers Fellowship Community Church to the Well Church. But it's a church that my wife and I love going to. And, the pastor is someone who I definitely look up to in the sense of the way that he conducts himself as a leader in the church, the way that he treats his wife. We had a blessing to be able to go to premarital counseling with them before getting married. And that's something that we will never forget, that experience. It was really, really powerful for Jess and I leading into our marriage. So he's definitely someone as well. And I would say right now, those are probably the two. I mean, when I mentioned the YouTube channel, I haven't met him yet, but he's someone that I respect what he's doing, and the things that he says on his channel and stuff, that's someone that I can say that I also look up to as well. Those are probably the three.
That's great.
Yeah.
So from childhood to even as you're in your career, your idols change, and people that you like look up to change, and kind of inspire you in different ways.
Definitely.
So that's awesome, man. Again, I really appreciate you coming today. So anybody who's interested, it's K_Al, right?
That's
AL
right. That's
on
right.
Instagram, K_AL. And then also KMATS or KevinTutoring.com. Check it out, guys. It's really interesting. If you have anybody in any age group, and needs any tutoring in math, but I would even extend that to professional tutoring as well. This is a very professional interaction, and somebody who's been in corporate America. He's went through college. He has a lot of experience under his belt, and I think even as a consulting role, he could be helpful. So I would recommend reaching out to Kevin for sure. But yeah, guys, it's been a great podcast so far, and everybody say goodbye. Good night. That's it for this evening, guys. Kevin Allen, everybody.
All right. Later, guys. Thanks so much. See you guys next time.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Bye.